There's a leak about the next Switch that I want to break down, and of course a lot more 3.0 and Sora news.
Block content.
What's happening, my Block buddies, and welcome to a brand new episode of Blocked Content's Leak Speak. My name is Callum, and this is going to be your Blocked Content for today, and it's going to be a jam-packed episode because we have a lot of different things to discuss, not just on the version 3.0 that of course just released. It was on October 18th, 2021, and it of course had a lot of things in it that a lot of you guys are very excited about. If of course Sora dropping, all those different spirits, then we also had a lot more in terms of like wigs and hats and armor, but also there were these fighter adjustments. There were these balancing patches that actually really had a big change to the game. So I'm really curious what you guys think of all that, but we're also diving into something completely different and something that you guys know the channel for a very long time. Now, there is some news regarding a Nintendo Switch successor. We've talked about that a couple of days ago as well, but these things are coming more and more to the surface as time passes. So it feels like, even though there's a little confusion in the air as to this could be an update to the Switch, kind of like the Pro model or maybe even a 4K model, but right now it also seems like it could be a new console entirely that won't even carry the Switch name. So if that's true, then it'll be a grand evolution of the console itself, right? Of Nintendo as a brand itself. So I'm really curious to find out what is true in this avalanche of news, because to me, it really feels like it is time to kind of retire the Switch in this version of the iteration. It feels like something new has to be coming really soon, especially the OLED models now out of the way. We have our price option with something a little bit more substantial, but I really desperately also want to see what Nintendo is like in the 4K world, because everyone's kind of doing it, and Nintendo is already a couple of years behind the curve now. So the big question is, what is this going to be? What are the games going to be? What are the launch games, and what's in development? Well, this leak talks about everything, so I wanted to just dive into it right from the top. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, feedback, you can send them over to Blocked Content. You can send us an email at blockedcontentmail@gmail.com, and I will answer your questions here live on the show. So let's dive into all of the leak and speculation information for today, and that is brought to us by Anonymous over on the 4chan board, and it says Nintendo leak. Well, it talks about this Nintendo Switch successor, and it goes on to say that it will not have any Switch or anything like Switch in the title, to prevent any of that Wii U-like confusion that of course happened on E3 a couple years back, and no one really knew what that console was all about. Now, it uses a new kind of Joy-Con. So yeah, two different Joy-Con probably, but where it has a sphere-shaped button on the top of the controller that can distort the button layout. So maybe it has something like a digital screen. That's what it feels like to me, right? Distort something physical might be a very strange concept, but to have little screens, little touch screens on there that of course also have button input, that would make complete sense to me. So that's something that I would be very excited about. Now, 900p 120Hz screen is manufactured by Samsung, and it's about twice as powerful as the normal Switch undocked. And the dock works like an eGPU, adding additional power that allows for an upscaled 4K games, which would be incredible because that would mean upscaled, right? That would mean the games that we already have would also look even more impressive, but it also would mean probably that there's new stuff on the way that is designed for just a 4K Switch launch. And of course, I'm still calling it the Switch just because right now we don't really even have a code name to this, right? It was back in the days, the NX, that was of course the Nintendo Next, that was the code name for the Switch, but it ended up of course not being anything like that at all. Of course, Nintendo very consumer friendly, right? Very base down, yeah? So launches alongside Metroid Prime 4. So of course, the development of that game taking this long could also maybe mean maybe it's taking that long because it's not even realizable on the Switch right now. Maybe the game is just too big, maybe the graphics that they're aiming for, because it has to be an evolution of the Prime games that we've already had, and they already looked so incredible. So what do? Well, you make it a launch game for your next system. That would make complete sense to me. And the 4 biggest unannounced games for next year are, and this is where it gets really interesting, because Konami is potentially coming with a 3D remake of Metal Gear from the NES. So essentially just the origin story of Big Boss, I think, right? That, or at least the end of that, right? Where it's still Snake and Big Boss, and it's this huge adventure, but of course on the NES, it really felt that small. But there's hints of that in a couple of the Metal Gear games to the original NES version. So I would be really excited to find out what the story is, and of course if Kojima-san is actually involved in this. I mean, he probably won't be, just because it's a remake, so they can really just take anything that happened and we need to consult with him about story. It's all kind of right there, but also it would be pretty sad because he of course originated and created all of it, and he isn't a part of Konami anymore, and he doesn't own Metal Gear Solid anymore. So that would be kind of sad, kind of like seeing Snake in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, right? It is the same character. Yes, it was designed first and foremost by Kojima-san, but now of course he's just put in the game and there's no real conversation with Kojima. Although we could probably say that Sakurai has probably called up his old buddy to kind of consult about the character, how he's, appearing in Smash Ultimate. Now, there will also reportedly be a Mario Kart Switch Dash, which it almost feels like a sequel to Double Dash, right? And even if the console isn't called Switch, why would this then be the Switch Dash? Then also there is a new Rhythm Heaven game coming, and a lot of fans are very excited for anything like this because of course the Rhythm Heaven games are huge with the fans of that series. On the surface they aren't that popular, but I could definitely see it being something huge, right? And I think that for Switch it would also make sense to have a new game in development, but if they're starting these games from development right now or just very early, then it would mean a lot to consumers to not just have them for this new Switch, but also for the current Nintendo Switch that we have right now. Like, they could be multi-console, and I think that that's kind of the way to go here, especially if you look at what PlayStation and Xbox have been doing, right? They've been doing these multi-platform launches for their different generations of consoles, and I think they almost have to do it that way because people can't really buy all the consoles all the time, right? That is just not feasible with the prices of these consoles. So sometimes people will only have one or two or at most three consoles in their lifetime. And yes, gamers like us, sometimes we have an Xbox and a PlayStation, sometimes we have all of the consoles that are running at the moment, and some collectors even have everything that has ever released, right? And I mean, I count myself very lucky among the people that has quite a lot of consoles, and also because, video games are a part of my work, then of course I also pay attention to that stuff, but there's people that will just have that one console, so to have games coming to the Switch as well as that new console, I think would be very smart. Now also reportedly there's a 3D Mario vs. Donkey Kong game coming, which would be an RPG, so I would immediately think about something like Mario Kingdom Rabbids, something like that would make sense to me. And it apparently is developed by the Odyssey devs. So this could potentially be that Donkey Kong game that we've heard about, a big 3D Donkey Kong game from the Odyssey developers, but it's not a Donkey Kong game, it's actually a Mario vs. Donkey Kong game, which in the olden days was a Donkey Kong game, right? But it just, the roles were kind of reversed and it was kind of strange. So really curious what you guys think of all the news of today. Of course, Sora also dropped, and there's a lot of new stuff in version 3.0, which is of course the Riku, Kairi, Roxas, Axel, Zion, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua. They are appearing as spirits in the Kingdom Hearts version of the Spirit Board, and then there's also the following spirits that appear in the Spirit Board shop. That's Razewing, Ratha. And then Sora Challenger Pack is of course here with a Judd hat, Octoling wig, and the Doomslayer helmet and armor that you can now buy. And there's a lot of fighter adjustments as well, so I'm really curious for you guys to find that out and let me know what you think. Well, today's comment question is of course, are you excited about the new Switch or not? Let me know in the comments down below, and our previous comment question winner is PR Smith. I actually don't agree with all the winning commenters. There absolutely will be multiple Switch models. The OLED is not, I repeat, not the answer to next-gen consoles. Compare Switch to the DS. Switch is DS, OLED is DS XL, the long-rumored and developed Switch Pro will be the 3DS or new 3DS. The processing power and hardware of the OLED does nothing to significantly improve the Switch's performance on games that would require it. As for Smash, this may or may not be the last one that Sakurai is the lead director of, but Nintendo and actually every contributing third party has absolutely no reason to not want a sequel. It's proven that Smash is an incredibly effective advertising tool for these companies' own games. Xenoblade 2, Dragon Quest, and others saw huge jumps in their sales following the character's inclusion in Smash, and as will Kingdom Hearts once it comes to Switch. Development on Ultimate had already begun before the DLC and life cycle for the Wii U was even finished. And thank you so much for your comment and everyone who comments on these videos. I really love that about this community. And of course, if you have anything awesome to share with Block Content, you can do that down in the comments below. It makes me very happy. And if you want to donate anything and make sure that we get to do these videos on the daily, well, it's very easy. Just go to patreon.com/blockedcontent. And even from $1 a month, you can have access to stuff that we make. And also you can kind of choose what the content is that you want to see on the channel. Is there a snake codec that you really want to see, or a leak speak topic you want me to discuss? Well, please subscribe to this channel, click that like button, and of course ring the bell for updates, and I'll see you guys around the corner where there will always be more blocked content. See ya!